The surprising science of creating petrol from crude oil. Instantly. What if I told you that petrol is not actually found inside crude oil? Yes, petrol is not found in crude oil. It is created, and not slowly, not over decades, not over years, but almost instantly. Inside massive industrial machines where heat, pressure, and chemistry collide at unbelievable speed. Once you truly understand how petrol is made, you will never look at a fuel pump the same way again. Most people imagine petrol sitting underground, trapped inside the earth, waiting patiently to be pumped out in the exact form their car needs. That picture feels logical, but it is completely wrong. In reality, crude oil is nothing like the fuel you put in your tank. Petrol is created, not discovered, and the process happens far faster than most people ever realize. Sometimes in minutes, sometimes in seconds. Every single time you fill your tank, you are using fuel that did not exist in that form shortly before it reached the pump. That alone should make you pause. And today, we are breaking down the surprising science behind how crude oil is transformed into petrol almost instantly, using nothing more than heat, pressure, and carefully controlled chemistry. Before this video ends, you will understand something most people never learn in school. There are no complicated formulas here, no confusing jargon, just the real story of how modern fuel is made. One of the biggest myths in energy science is the belief that crude oil already contains petrol, diesel, and kerosene, and that refineries simply separate them like sorting items into different boxes. That is only partly true, and it hides the most important part of the story. Crude oil is actually a thick, dark mixture made up of thousands of different hydrocarbon molecules. These molecules vary wildly in size and structure. Some are light and volatile, some are heavy and sticky. Some are useful. Some are almost useless on their own. If you poured raw crude oil directly into your car, the engine would not run. In fact, it would likely suffer serious damage. Crude oil burns poorly, leaves heavy residues, and does not behave in a controlled way inside an engine. Petrol is not pulled out of crude oil like juice from an orange. It is manufactured. To understand how petrol is created, we first need to understand what crude oil really is. At its core, crude oil is a mixture of hydrocarbons. These are molecules made only of hydrogen and carbon atoms bonded together. The key difference between petrol, diesel, jet fuel, and heavy fuel oil is not the ingredients themselves, but the length of the carbon chains. Short carbon chains ignite easily and burn cleanly. These become petrol. Medium-length chains burn more slowly and release energy over a longer time. These become diesel or jet fuel. Long carbon chains are thick, heavy, and slow to burn. These become fuel oil, bitumen, or raw material for plastics and chemicals. A useful way to imagine crude oil is as a tangled box of chains of different lengths, all mixed together with no order. The refinery job is to sort these chains, break the long ones, and rearrange everything into fuels that engines can actually use. The first major step in this transformation happens through a process called fractional distillation, and this is where the speed of modern refining becomes clear. Crude oil arrives at a refinery and is immediately pumped into massive furnaces. These furnaces heat the oil to around 400 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the oil does not burn. Instead, it turns into vapor. That vapor is then fed into a huge distillation column. This is a steel tower that can be as tall as a 20-story building. Inside this tower, the temperature is carefully controlled. It is extremely hot at the bottom and gradually becomes cooler as you move upward. As the hot vapor rises through the column, different hydrocarbon molecules begin to cool and condense back into liquid at different heights. Heavy molecules condense first because they require higher temperatures to stay in vapor form. These heavier liquids fall back down toward the bottom. Lighter molecules remain in vapor form longer and rise higher up the column before cooling and condensing. Petrol vapors condense near the upper section of the column, where the temperature is just right. Diesel condenses lower down. Gases rise even higher and are collected separately. This entire process runs continuously. Crude oil flows into the system without stopping. and different fuel streams flow out at the same time. There is no pause, no batch processing, no waiting. From the moment crude oil enters the distillation unit to the moment petrol is separated, only minutes pass. Not days, not weeks, minutes. But here is the part that surprises most people. Fractional distillation alone does not produce nearly enough petrol. Crude oil naturally contains far more heavy molecules than light ones, and modern society demands enormous quantities of petrol for cars, generators, and transportation systems. So refineries use a second process that is far more aggressive and far more impressive. It is called cracking. Cracking does exactly what the name suggests. It breaks large hydrocarbon molecules into smaller ones. Instead of simply separating what already exists, cracking actively creates new petrol molecules by breaking heavy chains apart. There are two main types of cracking used in refineries. The first is thermal cracking. This process uses extremely high heat and pressure to force large molecules to snap apart. The second, and far more important method today, is catalytic cracking. In catalytic cracking, heavy oil is blasted with intense heat and exposed to special catalyst materials. These catalysts are not consumed in the reaction. They simply speed up chemical changes and guide molecules into breaking in useful ways. Inside the cracking unit, conditions are violent by chemical standards. Molecules move at incredible speed. They collide, split, and rearrange. Long carbon chains shatter into shorter ones that match the size needed for petrol. This transformation happens incredibly fast. In seconds, heavy oil that could never be used in a car engine becomes petrol-sized molecules ready for further refining. This is where petrol is truly created. Not slowly, not gradually, but almost instantly at full industrial speed. Catalysts are the hidden heroes of this process. Without them, fuel production would require far more energy, far more time, and far higher costs. Petrol would be scarce. Transportation would be expensive. Entire economies would struggle to function. These tiny particles quietly control molecule size, reduce waste, and increase petrol output, making modern life possible. Once cracking is complete, the petrol still is not ready for your car. It must go through final refining steps to ensure safety, efficiency, and consistency. Sulfur must be removed to reduce pollution and protect engines. Octane levels must be carefully adjusted so engines do not knock or misfire under pressure. Additives are blended in to clean engine components, improve combustion, and extend fuel shelf life. This blending stage is where petrol becomes standardized. It is engineered to perform the same way whether you buy it today or next month, in one city or another country. Only after all of these steps does petrol leave the refinery. It moves into storage tanks, then into tanker trucks, pipelines, and finally arrives at the fuel pump where you use it. So when people say petrol comes from crude oil, they are only half right. Crude oil is the raw material. Petrol is the product of precision engineering, extreme physics, and controlled chemical chaos. Understanding this changes how you see energy. Fuel prices are not only about supply and demand. They are about refining capacity, maintenance, and chemical efficiency. Refineries are not just factories. They are strategic assets that support entire nations. And transitioning away from fossil fuels is not simple, because we are attempting to replace one of the most efficient industrial systems ever built by humans. Every liter of petrol represents heat, pressure, catalysts, and molecules colliding at incredible speeds, all carefully controlled to keep the modern world moving. So the next time you are standing at a fuel pump, remember this: that petrol did not exist underground. It was created, almost instantly, by science. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more videos explaining how everyday systems really work, like the video, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what topic you want next.